Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Tonight, I'm going to be reacting to Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K. Short special. Yes, short special, Red Eyes, Revelations, and Bucket. This has been created by AFanWithTooMuchTime. If you want to check out my previous reactions, remember the playlist card will be at the top. Just click on it and be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as AFanWithTooMuchTime's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. Last week, with episode 12, A Storm of Sabers, the Warhammer and Star Wars side are both in the thick of it. You know, there are many battle scenes across the planet and, well, not literally across the planet, maybe just in one focal point, like a city on the planet. And then in space, you know, on the Warhammer 40K vessels. And yeah, the Jedi are fighting against the Liberian. Jedi are fighting against the Sisters of Battle. Jedis are fighting against the Astra Militarum. And of course, the clone troops are also in the thick of it as well, fighting against this Qatari of the Adeptus Mechanicus. They're also fighting on the surface with the Jedi on Axiom. So, you know, there's a lot of fighting everywhere. We still don't know who's going to be the clear winner. There are some sides, or should I say the Warhammer 40K side, they have a trump card that they haven't fully realized or utilized. I'm wondering whether they're going to continue, you know, not knowing about this, or over time will they develop that knowledge to say that, okay, we can actually control our powers far more effectively in this universe or in this galaxy. So yeah, I think that's only a matter of time. And will the Star Wars side have an answer for that? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But yeah, let's continue with this short special. I'm assuming that this is not going to be a continuation from episode 12. So yeah, let's see what this is about. 3, 2, 1, go.
Come on, Doc. It's getting late. I'm not sure I've ever had a field watch that lasted as long as whatever you're doing right now, the Clone Guardian groaned. He lightly dinged his helmeted head against the metal cover over one of the many arrayed supercomputing ports that were lined up, going out for miles in either direction. They were stacked in rows, with hallway space between them for engineers and technicians to access them.
This is not AFanWithTooMuchTime's voice. This must be the collaborators, you know, with AFanWithTooMuchTime. Okay, alright.
Dr. Shina ignored Bucket, working from her chair, which she had parked nearly within one of the maintenance alcoves. Doc, I'm starving over here. Can you at least explain to me what you've been doing for the last, 12 hours? I'm not used to being around someone not talking to them, Bucket whined. Shina took a deep breath, first in and then slowly out. Though her fingers did not cease their tapping, and her eyes, bloodshot and intense, did not blink. Before her were data streams and hollow access points, each laid out and scrolling past at simultaneous interludes which she had set. 8 of her digital proxies were maneuvering within the system, operating at various levels, and all at her direction. Currently, all of them were occupied, each one engaging with the security system of the Senate's communications record cache in one way or another.
I've been trying to slice into the Supreme Chancellor's private communications history,
she murmured, dry eyes darting. Bucket slumped at the news and shook his head. Why? Don't you work for the Chancellor? He asked.
We all work for the Supreme Chancellor,
the doctor said, dismissing the comment with barely a thought. Bucket crossed his arms and shook his head more vehemently. I mean, you work with the Supreme Chancellor directly, right? Can't you just ask him to let you see? He suggested. She'd almost paused and found herself laughing. It was the first time she'd laughed in days. But the laughter was not of a genuine sort.
It's because I work with him that I know that would never work. Sure, he will placate me, maybe show me something he wants me to see, but if it's something he doesn't want people to know, then I won't see it. At best, I'll be deceived. At worst, well, he'll know I know something about something he doesn't want me to know, and I'd rather not make an open enemy of my employer, much less the Supreme Chancellor.
Dr. Shina, what are you doing? What are you doing, lady? This sounds dangerous. I'm sure you know your employer's true side, or maybe you don't. I thought like he keeps you in, in his confidence, but it doesn't seem that way. Yeah, I'm just kind of worried. What are you actually doing? But let's hear. He
said. Bucket tilted his head. And the way you are choosing to not make an enemy of the Supreme Chancellor is by illegally slicing into his holo records, he asked. Sheena nodded.
More or less,
she said. But then why even bother? If he finds out you did this, you'll be his enemy no matter what you find, even if you find nothing, Bucket said. Dr. Sheena nodded and licked some sweat off of her upper lip. She knew that. Of course she knew that. Her heart was beating so fast, and had been for all of these 12 hours. She felt exhausted, but nothing she felt now could compare to what she'd felt back on the Honor Hound. Nothing could scare as much as that thing she had seen.
Angel of Death.
That thing that had killed Renfai, killed Gaffin, and everyone else on that ship. That thing had not been human. She was sure of it. It had been too large, too powerful. Its eyes still blazed, still watched her from her memory, burning, kindling, judging. Its last words whispered to her in her dreams, in her idle moments, in the maw of silence.
I am the Angel of Death, and I have come to render judgment.
The natural question then, of course, was, for what? Judgment about what? What was it judging, and why? Why had it judged them all worthy of death? But she had that answer already, yet while she knew why, she did not know why.
Do you want to know why? Oh yeah, she wasn't on the bridge when the Bellajaw, went into hyperspace into the vessel of the Warhammer 40K, that cargo vessel. I forgot what it was named again. What was it? The Atlas of Steel. Yes. She wasn't on the bridge. I remember Jedi Master Renfai pulled her away, or sent her away, because she was interfering with the operations. She was insisting on the Star Wars side to immediately attack and destroy the vessel as soon as it came out of the warp, and that was the Atlas of Steel. But Renfai decided not to do anything like that, and they had, an argument. Renfai decided that she had to leave. She's distracting his operation, and she never saw what happened with the Bellajaw, when it rammed into the Atlas of Steel. And that's what started all of this. So, does she want to know why the Bellajaw went into the Atlas of Steel? Okay. I don't think you should go there. I don't think you want to go there. I don't think you want to do that. Yeah. You'll be shocked.
Doc? Asked the clone bodyguard.
Bucket, do you remember what happened right before the battle? There was a situation. One of the enemy ships had come out of hyperspace right in front of the fleet and ahead of its own forces. It was a huge ship.
She said. Bucket nodded, the back of his helmet clinking against the casing he leaned against. Though she did not turn to watch him, fingers still in a frenzy, eyes still wide as she worked. "I remember," he said.
And then something happened. One of our ships broke ranks. Do you remember that?
She asked, her voice a breathless whisper, as though she feared she might be overheard. Bucket nodded again. Yeah, I remember that. Captain Kraken lost his mind and suicide rammed the enemy's ship. We're almost part of the group sent to help evacuate the wreckage. If we'd been... Well, then we would have been in trouble, he said.
Good. I'm glad you know that much, but do you know which ship Kraken used to do it?
She asked. The clone shrugged as he answered. Well, I guess it would be his ship. The Honor... Hound, he started to say, trailing off, already realizing that made no sense.
It wasn't,
she confirmed for him.
It was a new ship, a modified Venator called the Bellajaw, which was given over to Renfi just before the mission began. That ship was personally gifted to him by Supreme Chancellor Palpatine.
Well, that's odd, I guess, Bucket said. Shina nodded, tapping roughly against the glass keys of her chair-mounted console.
It gets odder. I was on the bridge when it all happened. Kraken was getting our commands, was hearing our transmissions, but he wasn't responding. He chose not to respond. It was like he just...
She started to say, struggling to find the words. Just following orders, Bucket muttered softly.
Exactly. I almost want to say he was in a trance, but if you've seen the holo, then you know how precise that jump needed to be to actually hit its target. Captain Kraken was lucid, and he was at the helm, and he used all his skill to cleave that huge ship right down the center,
said the doctor. And doing that... Fragging moons of frag! Doing that started this whole war in the process, Bucket said. Only...
Whoa, Bucket. Yes, but you're right, yes. That's how it all started, and when Dr. Shina was talking about the clone captain was in a state of a trance, I'm thinking maybe that is Order 66, or maybe there's another order that the Supreme Chancellor can execute that control the clones in some sort of way. I'm not sure. Because I always assumed that Order 66 was specifically meant for killing the Jedi, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. But yeah, that's exactly what happened, Bucket. The ship just went right through it.
Realizing the implication of the act.
Yes, that's the part that's obvious, Bucket. But there's just one particular thing that does not add up, even more than all these other oddities. One thing that is pushing me to find out more, despite the obvious risks.
Shina said. And what's that? Asked the clone.
All Republic hyperdrives have inhibitors built into them. Fail-safes that pull the ships out of hyperspace if a sufficient mass shadow is detected in the path of the vessel. These are hardwired, and undoing that safety takes time and equipment. Too much time, in fact.
Bucket paused to consider her words.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, we've seen something similar in the movies, Star Wars, what was it, Skywalker or something? Yeah, the latest, not the latest one. It was one of those Star Wars movies, with the Raddus ramming into the Supremacy. Yeah, it didn't take long for the ship to actually do that. They didn't have to disable any kind of safety system or take out some sort of component for the ship to, ram through the supremacy. So, I don't know.
But shook his head after a while. Well, I still don't get it. The doctor sighed, breathing out her annoyance and increasing the rate of her tapping fingers.
The Bellador was modified for fringe space exploration. Its modifications included non-standard changes to critical systems, the shields, the crew quarters, the life support systems, the navigation sensors, and...
she said, letting the last word hang in the air. Bucket fumbled with his thoughts for a moment before gasping as the answer struck him. The hyperdrive? He asked.
Precisely! The listed changes appear to make it seem safe enough, but I'm not convinced of that. Not after the Bellador succeeded in accurately throwing itself down the center of that Imperial starship.
Shina said. Wait, so you think the Supreme Chancellor had already prepared that ship to be used as a suicide ram? Bucket asked, aghast at the very suggestion. Shina did not answer. She only typed more.
Your line of thought is dangerous. Your line of thought, Dr. Shina, is very dangerous. You are hitting it. You are hitting it right on the nail. You are correct. However, with this information, know that your life is now under threat. And anyone that you have told is their lives are also under threat. So far it's only Bucket. Let's try and keep it that way. Just between the two of you.
Bucket, however, continued. But if that were the case, then wouldn't the order to ram the ship have come from...
And now you know why I need to know. Maybe the ship had a ram feature that Captain Kraken abused, maybe he was drugged, or replaced by a separatist infiltrator, or got the order from somewhere else. But the simplest answer is often the correct one. And in this case, the simplest explanation is...
Dr. Shina said before trailing off. A silence started then, and the clone seemed to take his position as lookout much more seriously. Shina's hovering chair was wired to a nearby console, and while this section of the Senate's labyrinthian technical and maintenance access spaces had been utterly deserted for all the hours that they had spent there thus far, suddenly, everything seemed much less safe than it had been before, at least to the clone. Doc? Bucket said.
Yes?
She asked. I'm no computer expert, but if you actually managed to break into there, won't there be some sign that you did this? I'm sure you cannot listen to the Supreme Chancellor's personal communications without leaving a footprint. Sheena smirked and nodded.
Well, I wouldn't phrase it quite like that, but yes, which is why I'm not trying to listen to anything.
She said. What are you even looking for? He asked.
Simple.
She said.
A timestamp.
What? He asked. She breathed heavily and prepared herself for another explanation.
Interesting. Okay, so you don't want to watch or listen to this hollow message. You just need to know that at that specific time, before the Bellador, went into hyperspace, there was a message that was sent to the Bellador, and then from that you would, understand that, okay, yes, the Chancellor sent a message to the Bellador. 5 seconds later, the Bellador went into hyperspace and ran right through the Atlas of Steel. Okay, that's interesting.
If I can see if a message was sent and get a timestamp, then I can see if it was just sent before the ramming happened. It won't prove anything, not by itself, but...
But it will be way too convenient to be coincidence, he finished for her. She nodded. But if you find out, and the message was sent, then what next? Who do we tell about something like this? The Jedi? Bucket asked. Sheena almost laughed again.
The Jedi? No, they are either in on it themselves at some level, or, if they are not, they are bound to do something ridiculous. Can you imagine if the Jedi tried to arrest the Chancellor over this? If he really did orchestrate these events, then there is no telling what else he is capable of. He could tear the Republic apart, and it would be as easy as issuing Order 66 just before his arrest.
Wait, you know about Order 66, Dr. Shina? Whoa. Okay. Wow, lady. I did not know that you knew about Order 66. That's a bit worrisome right there. Like, you know that the clone troops can be controlled by the Emperor that way. Oh, sorry, the Supreme Chancellor that way. And you know, it could cause a very real threat to the Republic and to the Jedi Order. You know, you knew about this whole time. Interesting. And you never thought that, okay, maybe I should tell the Jedi that something like this exists in the clone troops, you know, that one of these days they can just turn on you and start shooting you and killing you. So I find that interesting that you know about this, but you just kept it to yourself this whole time. Maybe because you'd also be in trouble if you started telling the Jedi about this. And also, you don't really trust the Jedi, so yeah. Whose side are you on, Dr. Shina? You know, at first I thought you worked for the Supreme Chancellor and you were on his side. And even your own points about the Jedi, you seemed to not really like them, or, you know, had some sort of distrust for them because of their Force knowledge and, you know, considering them as being incompetent in whatever they try to do. So, yeah, I thought you were on the Chancellor's side, but it doesn't seem that way. You are acting on your own initiative. You are investigating this matter, and it seems that you're doing this for the good of the Republic and not for the Chancellor. Okay. All right.
She said. Order 66? Asked Bucket. The doctor nodded her head as she continued her work.
It's one of the 150 contingency orders that were drafted at the onset of the Clone Wars. They are supposed to be just for show, but who knows what would happen if he actually issued them.
Just for show? You don't put something like that in Clone Troopers' brains just for show. That's not just for show.
She said. So who do we tell if not the Jedi? The Senate? Bucket asked.
Almost.
She said before one of her screens turned blue, and then all of them followed suit. Dr. Shina pulled her hands away from the keys abruptly as a new data stream began to fill her view, and she blinked her bloodshot eyes for the first time in too long, wanting to be sure she was reading this correctly, wanting to avoid an error at all costs. Whoa! What was that? Bucket asked, leaning in towards the alcove.
I'm in.
Shina whispered, eyes scanning frantically. And? Bucket asked, voice tight as he came to watch over her shoulder. Her hands snapped out, tapping a key, and the data stream froze. She lifted her finger to one line, tracing under the holographic script, feeling her heart beat harder and harder as she read it again and again.
There it is,
she said at last.
A private transmission sent from the office of the Chancellor to an unmarked vendor. Unmarked, but within the war theater we were operating within. The message was sent only a few minutes before the ram. Frag! Only seconds before Kraken broke the formation. It's all right there.
The doctor breathed. Oh, Scrog and Scrog! Bucket moaned. So what now? He asked. The words seemed to snap Dr. Shina back to reality, and she reached for the keys again, starting the process of covering her tracks, minuscule though they were.
We need to get in contact with the leader of the Loyalist Committee,
she said. Who? Bail Organa? Why him? The clone asked.
No,
said the Saurian doctor.
the real leader of the Loyalists. We need to speak with the only person in the Senate with the backing and backbone to even think about doing anything about this,
she said. Bucket shrugged his shoulders. And who's that? He asked.
Senator Padme Amidala,
said Shina.
And we need to speak with her before she leaves for Axum.
She's leaving for Axum? Why? That place is a battlefield. What are you doing going there? That's crazy, lady. Okay, Senator Amidala.
Hey there, everybody.
Okay, before we continue with AFanWithTooMuchTime's discussion, I just wanted to say that, this special episode or short episode called Short Special Red Eyes, Revelations, and Bucket by AFanWithTooMuchTime was interesting. It was really, really interesting, hearing from Dr. Shina again and Bucket, how Dr. Shina is investigating on, the last transmissions that were given to the Bellajaw, and how Captain Kraken, followed the orders like a good soldier, ramming into the Atlas of Steel. And, now she knows this information, and it could really be a life-threatening situation for her now that she has this information. I don't know if the Security Bureau of the Supreme Chancellor is going to catch a whiff of this and, potentially send out agents to neutralize her, and probably also Bucket. But hopefully she does get to Senator Amidala, as soon as possible. And I'm also worried about Padme going to Axiom, right now, at this very moment when Warhammer and Star Wars sides are fighting against each other in such bloody and brutal conflicts, that's no place for a senator. I know she's, a guns-ho, save the day kind of senator. She gets her hands dirty. She goes into the trenches whenever she can, and she also fights, but I don't think this is a place for you right now, Senator Amidala. These people are not like the clankers. These people are not like the separatists. These people, it's a nightmare. So, hopefully she doesn't go to the planet. If she does, hopefully she survives and, she lives to tell the tale. But really, I think she should just stay away. And, it will cause less trouble for Anakin Skywalker because he needs to focus on his operations as well. So if he senses that Padme is here, he's probably going to, try to focus on saving her or protecting her instead of dealing with his mission. So yeah, hopefully she doesn't reach Axiom. Hopefully Dr. Shina gets to her in time, tells her about this information. And what will result from this, I don't know, honestly. But I think the Supreme Chancellor is going to wiggle himself out of this situation, because I think Padme is going to confront him with this information, either in the Senate or in their own private, discussions. She's going to confront him, and he is going to do something. He's going to say something, to wiggle himself out of this situation. He's going to make up an excuse of some sort. So yeah, I think the Supreme Chancellor is still going to be with us, even with this damning information. He's still going to make it out of this alive, I think. And then, as for Dr. Shina and Bucket, I just hope they also survive. But like I said, maybe the Security Bureau of the Supreme Chancellor is going to be sending people, agents, to go kill them or something. But yeah, it's very important information, and I think they should just keep it close to them until the time is right to expose this truth. Right now the Chancellor is highly supported, and even if Padme comes out here saying that, hey guys, the Chancellor is the one who ordered the Bellajaw to ram through the Atlas of Steel, thus beginning the war, I don't know if it's really going to work, So I think she should just keep this information to herself until the time is right. Yeah. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens in later episodes with that. And yeah, Stefan and Nora did a good job, voice acting for Bucket and being the narrator, Stefan being the narrator, and also Nora for being Dr. Shina. They were good. They were really, really good. Okay, guys, I guess that's it. Remember, if you like the original, or if you want to check out the original video as well as AFanWithTooMuchTime's YouTube channel, The links are in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And let's continue with AFanWithTooMuchTime. He's playing Mass Effect. Okay.
As a fan with too much time, and I just want to say again before we continue, thank you to Steven and Nora from the Horrible Gaming channel. I think they did a great job helping voice this small interlude, and I'm hoping that you guys like that. This was actually one of the community posts that I had put up way earlier, like a bunch of months ago, in between a few videos. That was like a little secret nugget for people who are reading and paying attention to the community post to get. But it's become a little, central to what's going on. Dr. Shina discovering this, as you saw in Beyond Axum. And so when Steven and Nora contacted me and offered their voices for an episode, I figured it was the perfect chance to kind of, patch that hole closed and enter it officially into the audio record as opposed to just having it as a text record hidden in the community section. There's one more post like that, actually, that I may very well accept, another fan voice, if anybody wants to do it, to voice that out, because it's going to be more important if we ever get to Season 2, and so it should be voiced as well. Again, it's a very small little interlude, such as what you saw here. But since we did have time to, get this little episode out and get it edited in between me finishing up the main series, I decided to put out a little Q&A to grab a few of them as to not waste this time in the aftertalk. So, without further ado, let's take a look at your questions. And the first question is from user Liam Norconk, and his question is, next video when? Well, I mean, if you don't count the one that you just...
When people ask that, next video when? It is funny, but man, people can stress you out with that question.
got just now, which I don't expect you to, right? You mean a next mainline episode. The week-long Rumble is coming. So let me explain something. Something that keeps on happening is that, I'm writing out the different portions per episode, and at a certain point I'll be like, okay, this episode isn't feeling right, or it's a little too top-heavy, or the pacing isn't right, and I realize that it sort of requires that I spread out what I've just written for this one portion across a few episodes, and so then I have to go back and edit the previous episodes to integrate some method of the information and, thing that I just wrote, to integrate it, not patchily, but seamlessly into it. And then I have to go forward to episodes I haven't written yet to reserve space for things that I have to tell. And that just involves a heck of a lot of writing and rewriting, to the point that I'm not even comfortable sending this to anybody who would, make a little, I don't feel comfortable even sharing this around to fans who would add to it yet, just because it's still changing, even though it's getting much closer to completion. We're like 130 plus pages now, and we're getting very close to the end. It's looking like I'm not going to be able to conclude Season 1 by the end of the week-long Rumble. I know. Trust me, it's not that I don't want to conclude it, and it's not that I'm taking my sweet time, but there is a fine line between being concise with the many narrative lines that, I've cast out, or any given person casts out, and cutting them down with an unsatisfying amount of urgency. And I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. And, to give you an idea of all the lines I have to reel in what is effectively like 7 episodes, we have the Jedi fighting the Librarian. We have the Inquisitor doing his nefarious stuff. We have the Jedi attacking the bunker. We have the Jedi attacking the Basilica, with the clone force, rather Ayla Sakura attacking the Basilica with the clone force. And there are little interspersed narratives in that. We have 1313 and him, and we have to pick up with him. We have Lazarus and Major Cinder and pick up with them. We have the Commissar who's ruling over the Basilica and his side of the defense, and we have to pick up with him. In addition to that, we have Sisters of Battle, who are going to become a bit more prominent, who their narratives have to be represented as well. We have Combeer. I don't know if I've mentioned Combeer yet, but Combeer, who was the native of Axum who decided to take up arms against the Imperium. He's got a whole thing that's going to round out. And that might not even be all of them, then there's Ahsoka, who's currently in the process of guiding a burning ship, or rather standing by while Echo guides a burning ship out of the sky. We have Anakin, of course. How could I forget Anakin? Anakin, he's opening the big metal box right now to find the prize inside. There's a lot. There's more than 7 overarching narratives, and I only have 7 episodes to round it all out in, and they're already some of the longest, chunkiest episodes in the series.
And yeah, like I don't want to rush people when they have such work to do, I wouldn't be asking next video when, Guys, I don't even know if AFanWithTooMuchTime has an assistant working with him doing all of this, or is this all by himself? So, let's just be patient. Let's give him the moral support he will need, and also the time and space to do the work that needs to be done. And, rushing people and asking them next video when is just not going to help, I know people are excited. They want to know what's going to happen next. Some of them can't wait because it's so good. But this is where you learn discipline, Be patient. Yeah.
So I'm not quite going to be able to finish by episode 7, but I will say this, and I can say this with absolute confidence. Where you start at the start of the week-long Rumble, the place we start at is going to be vastly different and transformed from where we end at. Many things will have changed. Many things will have developed. The Battle of Axum may come to an end. We might just, when I say that I might not be able to finish Season 1 by the end of the week-long Rumble, I mean literally hit that finish mark, because the end of Season 1 is going to involve the end of Axum and sort of a time after the end of Axum, where...
It's strange that you would say the end of Axum. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Is the planet going to blow up? Very suspicious.
Surviving characters are able to take in the impacts of things that had happened, so that it doesn't just end right on the climax, so to speak, but there's a wind down as well.
And he's also stating surviving characters. Man, this does not sound good. This does not sound good at all.
And I may not be able to catch the wind down. I may not even be able to catch the climax, or at least not the full like climax in the last week-long Rumble, but I'll get damn close if I don't get into it. Axum may very well be resolved. Maybe it's not, but it could be. We're still within that range. But yeah, I think overall you guys are going to like it. I'm not cheapening the story. I'm not shortening it. I'm also not trying to elongate it. You're going to notice certain characters come in that weren't really there before, and you might think, oh my god, fan, we can't keep adding characters to this. Yeah, it's a war, man, and I'm trying to represent not just, the war itself, but certain sides in the war and certain aspects of it, and there's a lot to explore. So I'm trying to catch all of that while being fair. Obviously, there's going to be, further naval encounters. Obviously, there's going to be, the Bad Batch is running around, and they've got to have their stuff. It's a big thing, I'm telling you. I'm trying to do it justice. I'm trying with all my might to not make it unnecessarily long, but also to not cheapen it by shortening it too quick, and for God's sakes to not do anything resembling what what D&D, not like the game, but the writers did to Game of Thrones. Definitely not.
We do not discuss about such things. We do not discuss about the seasons that will not be named. You know, let us forget. Let us bury this waste. Yeah, let's forget about such things.
Trying to cut down the series like that's been having this build up just all at once, just because I have this week-long Rumble. But it is going to be intense. It's going to be very plot thick, and I think you guys will enjoy it. As for when it's coming out, I can't really give you a straight answer to that. You know, I don't really do this as a full-time job, and it's a lot of writing. So because of that, it's just a little difficult to figure those numbers out. And I don't want to disappoint anyone nor scare anyone by going in the other direction and just overshooting a whole lot and then surprising us by saying, hey, it's a few months early, which would have meant that initial date that I gave you was worthless anyway. So patience, Liam. There shall be a day for you, for all of us, in fact. All right, so next question. Lazy Sloth. Are we going to see more Krieg? Yes, there will be more Krieg. Not a whole lot more, I don't think, in Season 1. I could be wrong. I'm still writing it all out. But the Kriegers are sort of exhausted, both physically, both literally and metaphorically at this point. But there will be more Kriegers in the series if it goes on, which I think it will. I think that my...
Krieg. Are they Astra Militarum soldiers? The soldiers of Krieg? I think that's what they are called. The guys with the masks, and they're always having that mask on them, and they don't have a qualms in killing themselves as long as the Imperium of Man wins, no matter what. Is it those people? I think so, right? Yeah. If I'm wrong, guys, please correct me.
Love for the universes is greater than my hate of the companies that control them, fortunately or unfortunately. So let's see here. So that was from Lazy Sloth. Next person is Darth Witch King. That's an awesome name. What inspired you to create this series of Star Wars and Warhammer? Well, I've always seen both Star Wars and Warhammer as like the grandchildren or the direct, like as the contemporary children of the Dune series. And I love the Dune series. The Dune saga, the Dune books are fantastic. And you will soon discover why. Very, very, very soon, very shortly, this month in fact, we will all be able to discover, or rediscover in my case, the absolute magic that is that story, because you gotta understand, so much comes out of this. I mean, yes, galactic empires, that all comes from Foundation, basically. Even Dune, I'm pretty sure, is inspired by Foundation when it comes to setting up a galactic empire. That being said, this really tremendous and awesome combination of the past and the future, of Jedi Knights wielding swords amidst armies holding blasters and lasers, that sort of aesthetic, that flavor, that combination of the past and the future coming together to create this new humanity, which you find obviously in Warhammer as well, in even more broader strokes. That flavor, that sort of genre, the Tolkien of that, the Lord of the Rings of that, I believe, was Dune, and I love Dune, and I love watching these things. So, for me, combining them is a lot of fun. I've always felt that Star Wars had a more compelling, and maybe even a bit wider universe, but a more compelling set of persistent characters than Warhammer did. That may change, though it hasn't quite yet. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I think that Anakin was the best character ever acted. But definitely in his different media portrayals, you can feel the compulsion of his arc, and more than just Anakin's arc, though Anakin is, of course, central to the original stuff. But yeah, that's basically what really inspired it, is just like, you have these two incredible successors of this also incredible series, and it's just fun to imagine, especially because of the nature of the two universes, what would happen if they clashed. I mean, it's not quite as fun to imagine, like, what would happen if Warhammer clashed with Star Trek. Because, frankly, they'd probably find, like, a way around it. Star Trek has actually dabbled with that, with the mirror universe, where you have the, like, in our standard universe, it's the Federation of Planets, the United Federation of Planets. And the reverse universe, it's like where everyone's evil. It's like the United Human Empire or something.
Yeah, the Terran Empire, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Yeah.
Analogous to that, and basically they're just like Star Trek with a bunch of Warhammer flavor forcibly injected into the eyeballs, and it's pretty cool. They have an emperor and stuff, not the same thing as like the God Emperor, but they have one. They have a lot of the same ideology and whatnot, and I mean the Imperium, the Imperium in Star Trek ends up becoming extremely antagonistic whenever it shows up because it has the power to be. Because it can't really be, like, it has enough power to throw around so much weight that it doesn't really feel that it's risking itself by being super hostile. But the Imperium from 40K isn't really the Star Trek Imperium because it's like, more desperate and trying to survive. So if given options to survive by humans, even if they're like these Xenos-loving humans, if the humans are so strong, they can easily exterminate his planets from just their standard-ass starships. Very quickly, they will be incentivized. The intelligent people within the Imperium will be incentivized to broker a deal. And because of the way the Federation is, very quickly a deal will be brokered. And there you have it. So, like, the nature of those two universes aren't as compatible and cool for a mix. And the same thing with the Star Wars universe. I mean, I can go ahead and make... I don't know. It could be mildly interesting, but the problem is that just, again, the flavors of the universe don't mesh in the way. Like, for example, I could tell a story about, like, Captain Picard from TNG in Star Trek finding a wormhole that takes him to the Star Wars universe. That's fine. Fuck, there's so much Star Trek lore that backs up bullshit like that. I could easily do it. And then, we have... Captain Picard going around the Star Wars universe during, let's say, the Galactic Civil War, and his ship is packed full of all these incredible technologies that are not really very common to Star Wars, such as like transporters and food replicators and the kinds of weapons and phasers. I mean, people like to make fun of of the photon torpedoes and phasers used by the starships in Star Trek, but like those things will blow the fuck out of most things that you can deal with in Star Wars. They outclass blasters, and frankly, they outclass most things the Imperium are throwing around, too. They're just precise, deadly, shoot you in the face, and almost never miss lasers that will fuck your day up really badly if you don't have the shields to stop them. And, it's ambiguous how powerful the shields in Star Trek are, but it's implied that they're really crazy, crazy amounts of strong.
I was just thinking about it, if Warhammer 40K and... a Star Trek kind of mesh would work, and I don't know. I don't know if it would really work. Really, I don't know if the Federation in Star Trek, have land-based armies. I don't think I've seen any of that. Maybe in Deep Space Nine, we did see Federation soldiers fighting on the surface of planets, and yeah, it looked okay, I guess, but I don't know, it just wouldn't work with the Astartes and then the Astra Militarum and all other factions of the Imperium of Man, facing up against Federation people, soldiers. It just wouldn't be the same. Because Star Trek is mainly based in space, their wars, their battles, everything is just based in space with their spaceships that go into warp and, that have all these quantum and photon torpedoes and the phasers and the disruptors, and that's mainly the mainstay of the Star Trek universe. And I think they would obliterate anything that comes from the Warhammer 40K side. Maybe. I don't know. But I think they would. So, I don't know. It just wouldn't gel. It just wouldn't gel. At least with Star Wars, they have their armies on planets. They have tanks. They have all these things that we can recognize. And so does the Imperium of Man. They have generally the same kind of war machine that's based on the ground, you know. And then, of course, they have the space vessels that fight in the void. But with Star Trek, I don't think you will get that same kind of immersions if you make a Star Trek versus Warhammer 40K. Yeah, it just wouldn't be the same, really. Yeah.
And certainly capable of stopping teleportation and stuff. Trust me, Star Trek has some pretty badass technology. It's just not applied in a savage way. But if we had that story, you know, you could have some tension with the Empire and the Rebels trying to get Picard on their side and whatnot. But, you know, Picard would very quickly join the Rebels, or not join the Empire at the very least. And even if you have, the Prime Directive, don't interfere, yada, yada, yada. I mean, how far can you really take that? You know, when Palpatine's popping planets like balloons with the Death Star. So, so that's what I mean. Those things don't combine as well. You know, those stories aren't as cool. Also, Picard would find the whole universe kind of really absurd. He'd be like, you know, how do you have this technology and you haven't solved this problem? And then people would be like, oh, and it's like, we don't think about that here because it's Star Wars and it's more like, you know, soft sci-fi. so that's one of the reasons why this jumped out at me versus another one. Okay, so I am...
And Star Wars is mainly more on the fantasy side than science fiction, you know? And Star Trek is more on the science fiction side than fantasy side. So also with the Imperium of Man, it's more on the fantasy side than it being on the science fiction side. It just wouldn't really work. It just wouldn't really gel. But because Star Wars is more on the fantasy side and Warhammer 40K is also more on the fantasy side, you know, those two can similarly gel, you know, together. But with Star Trek, it's just not going to work, really. Yeah.
I'm going to try to rapid fire a few of these because I'm now doing that thing that you guys don't like where my after talk is getting as long or longer than the video that preceded it. So I'm just going to try to go quickly here. Next one is by Plans and Bag, or Plan Sandbag. It's hard to tell. Will there be any Lamenters teaming up with the Salamanders? I can't tell you. That would be spoilers. So let's see here. Casual Silver. Will we see Vader's assassin/apprentice at some point? Okay. Vader's assassin/apprentice. I mean, do you mean Starkiller? Or Mara Jade? I can't really tell you either way, because it would be spoilers, but I will say this. You're very unlikely to see Starkiller here.
Yeah, he should be like a baby right now, or maybe a young Padawan. So I don't think we would see him, really. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Starkiller. I think that he's very narratively ill-conceived, and so I don't like him very much. Also, his story isn't the most compelling story I've ever seen. Also, he makes no fucking sense. He just really doesn't fit into the canon of Star Wars very well, so I don't like him very much. So you're not likely to see him.
Oh, if I lose too much time. Oh, you went straight to the point. You're not you're not being diplomatic here.
But either way, I can't tell you. Next one is Dat Boy. Is Abeloth the first Daemon Prince of Chaos undivided as a result of she gains powers from both the light and the dark side? Yes, I can't tell you that. That would be spoilers. However, I will say this. If you're following my interdimensional math as for like how this universe works, yeah, Abeloth is an interesting thing there. You know, imagine a Daemon Prince being created without chaos gods to do it all for you. Sort of like what Abeloth is analogous to. Next one is Joshua Seagraves. Will we see more Jedi die? Ha 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 ha. You will see. So, Plan Sandbag. Hey, there you are again. Do you listen to A Vox in the Void? No, I don't. I don't know what that is. Plan Sandbag again. What is your opinion on Battletech, and would you make any stories for it, especially crossovers? Because I've been looking for it off and on. I don't know Battletech very well. I think I used to know more about it, but not enough to make a crossover. Jeff2146. How many Jedi have died so far attempting to liberate New Cadia? Ooh, wow, okay. a lot of Jedi. About like over I think at least over 5,000 Jedi have attacked New Cadia, rather Axum, and well, let's just say that more than a few hundred have died at this point, and you'll find.
Okay, I thought you were saying more than 5,000 died. I'm like, what?
Out how bad that is at later points. So, let's see here. No one. Interesting way to spell that. Who were the precursors? Where did they go? Why did they build this crap? Daxter from Jack and Daxter series. Is that a question for me? I don't know how to answer that. However, I'm sure that there will be people asking that. Let's see. Sam, will Darth Maul and Savage Opress have a role to play in your story? Savage Opress is already dead in this story. However, Maul will definitely have a role to play. Still from Sam, where will the Confederate capital world be now that Raxus Secundus is destroyed? That is spoilers. You'll have to wait and see. And finally, how many Jedi have been killed on Anaxis so far? Anaxis, interesting. On Anaxis, not too many, because not too much fighting is happening on Anaxis. It's mostly on Axum. So let's see here. Mr. Shadier, which Chaos God do you think would have the easiest time spreading in the Star Wars setting? Nurgle. I think that Nurgle is going to be the most tempting of all of the Chaos Gods by far. And if we're saying that Chaos Gods spread by faith and not just by action, which they also spread by action, but like faith is supposed to be a big deal, direct worship is supposed to bolster that a whole bunch. I'll say this, maybe not Nurgle because Bacta is so readily accessible, or at least it seems that way, but the promise of immortality, much less just, liberation from pain and disease, but the promise of immortality would be a big one. You think that the Sith would be all for Khorne, but only a few Sith would really be for Khorne. And really not the big ones. Like, only a few Sith, and not the Dark Lords of the Sith. Almost all the Dark Lords of the Sith would be unanimously either Tzeentch, or, more likely than anything else, Nurgle. Why Nurgle? Nurgle gives you the most autonomy. Nurgle is the most straight up with you, which means that Nurgle himself is the easiest to try to manipulate, which is something they would try to do. And on top of all of that, it's just about the immortality, baby. I mean, you can't beat it. The Sith already don't care about looking corrupted and looking all rotted out from the Force. So, nergy, all day nergy. That would be a lot of Sith's first choice, just because it gives you that immortal life and doesn't threaten you as much as, like, trying to work with Tzeentch does. Where Tzeentch is like, oh yeah, I don't enslave you. Go ahead and work for yourself if you think you can, but we're all slaves to fate. And it's like, what's what? There'd be a lot of Sith that don't want to fuck with that. So I think that would be the big one. Let's see here. I'll do one more. CNLBNMNC. Let's see. Given that the Jedi seem to think all the Imperial Psychers are Darksiders, then given the slim chance they'll ever show up here, what would a Grey Knight's psychic essence look like to them? They literally have the ability called Feared by the Warp. Would they appear as some kind of blinding pillar of light, some kind of towering black inferno, plus considering what a librarian can make a lightsaber bleed and explode? Alright, so here's...
What exactly are Grey Knights? I've heard of that term before, but I never really researched on it. What are Grey Knights exactly? Is Ahsoka a Grey Knight? During Star Wars Rebels, did she become a Grey Knight? Or I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
Here's the thing, okay? So understand this. So it's hard for me to explain it. Actually, I can't. There's just not enough time left because I'm already so far past how much time I normally allow myself for these recordings, in proportion to how much video you guys get. So I'll try to sum it up really quick, and I'll have to expound upon it in a later video. But the will of the Force is inverted in the Warhammer 40K universe. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. The will of the Force is inverted in the Warhammer 40K universe. Basically what that means is that here, the Jedi believe in following the will of the Force. Okay, I have to explain the light side and the dark side. Fuck, this is such a big rabbit hole. Alright, super simple. There's a good case to be made that... fuck, okay, there really isn't enough time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to skip this question just because...
You tried. At least you tried, you know.
because I don't have enough time to go into it. Alright, I'll answer one more question. Party K Kimnaski. Kaminsky. 1. Are there possibilities of Space Marines of other soldiers tell their story of heroes like Dante, Macarius, and even Primarchs themselves? Yes. There is... I'm sorry, I'm getting lit up right now. Yes, there are going to be people who tell the stories of Space Marines and of Space Marine heroes and stuff in this universe. But, you know, how many people in the Star Wars universe will be the recipients of those stories? How many will want to be the recipients of those stories? How many will care? You know, it's all going to be in a context. But yes, definitely that the lore of 40K will get into this place from them occupying it like they are. Alright, guys. Sorry for going so long. I really try not to make these after talks longer than the video that precedes it. So, without further ado, I will say this. Have a great time. The week-long Rumble is coming soon. Try to remember what's important. Try to take care of yourself. And until next time, I'll see you later.
Okay, guys, that was AFanWithTooMuchTime discussing with us, you know, reading out messages that have been sent to him by his followers and subscribers and, you know, people who were interested in the project. And yeah, you know, basically what should I say, like, is the overarching message from him is, you know, be patient with him. You know, he is doing this mainly as a hobby. It's not a job, you know, and he enjoys what he's doing, but, you know, don't rush him. Don't expect things to be done on the next day, you know. These things take time. It's art, and art takes time to develop. It's not just manufactured, you know, in seconds. So, you know, it will take as long as it needs to. And, you know, once it's complete, once he's ready to release it, we will all enjoy it, you know. So we won't have any kind of concerns like, you know, oh, he's rushing here, or he hasn't really been the same after episode 26 or 27. You know, he's doing it as he feels right and as confident as he is in his project. All we have to be doing is just giving him that moral support, you know, giving him the messages of you know, appreciation of his work, you know, liking his videos, giving more comments in the comment section, discussing about the video, and, you know, just be patient with him. Mainly just be patient. I can say this as well because, you know, there's already a lot of episodes for me to get through, so I'm okay. I understand how those who first started out with Star Wars versus Warhammer, how you guys might have felt like, you know, you want the next episode right now, you know. I understand how you feel about that, but, you know, we just have to be disciplined on this. We have to be patient and give space to the writer to get his thoughts all together. AFanWithTooMuchTime to get his thoughts together, you know, compile the stories, and then get ready for recording and posting it on YouTube. We just have to give him that space to do everything. And yeah, it was a nice talk session from AFanWithTooMuchTime. And guys, I guess that's it for tonight. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as AFanWithTooMuchTime's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And that is it. Good night.